Hello, Jonathan again, and as promised, I am back with another video. So if you watched my previous video to this one, I'll probably put a link up here somewhere. I posted a very kind of a long video. It was almost 20 minutes long, of kind of what I'm planning on doing for Halloween. It was kind of my very first Halloween video, and it was sort of an explanation of what's kind of going on and what my plans are. So I had mentioned in the video that I would be making a more detailed tutorial on how I made this here. So this is my T-Virus vial, unfinished. You'll see it's really quite rough. So I am currently in the process of creating caps to cap the ends off. So but this is basically just a video on how I sort of created this whole tube system and the innards and how it all just kind of comes together. So stay tuned. I'll go ahead and get on with the tutorial and hope you enjoy it. Alrighty, so we are here in my humble little workspace. And this is my work table, pretty much where I do all of my sort of craft stuff. Off to my right is another larger area where I do a lot of my sewing. So let's get started. Okay, so I'll get kind of myself situated here. So this is a piece of polycarbonate tubing, and this is actually, I still have a piece of paper in here. This is a piece that I've been working off of for a little while from making the other T-Virus vials. So if I've got these two here, and these are 8-inch length polycarbonate tubing that came off of this piece. This was much longer. This is 48 inches long originally, so I've been cutting pieces off of that to make T-Virus vials. And I have, so far I've made 6 of them. So what this is a T12 polycarbonate tubing. It protects exposed fluorescent lighting tubes. So lighting fixtures with the very long fluorescent tubes that are exposed, that don't have a cover. So this is actually that product, and it, like I said, it comes in much longer, but I've been cutting off of it. So what I go ahead and do, this is very easy to work with, and with my cutting mat here, I've been measuring out 8-inch lengths. So that's about 8 inches right there. And just sort of create a line, just a little guideline with a Sharpie. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. I just kind of mark it so that I can cut into it. So this polycarbonate is very easy to cut and to work with. So you want to be extremely careful though, because this is a very sharp blade. But I'm just going ahead and carefully inserting my blade into the polycarbonate and just working it around. Blade will bind a little bit. You just have to be very careful, because even though this is easy to cut, the blade will bind just a little tiny bit. And you see I kind of really made kind of a wonky cut there because the blade sort of got stuck, but that's fine. If that happens and your ends are very uneven, you can just take a pair of scissors and just trim any of the jagged edges. Easy to work with, but it's extremely strong, which is pretty cool. I love that, and it's really lightweight. Good enough. Pretty much standing straight up and down. Doesn't have to be perfect, because like I said, I'm going to be putting caps. I'm going to cap the ends off, and it's still 8 inches. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Still within the 8-inch mark. Each square on this cutting mat is 1 inch. So what I did was out of this roll of clear vinyl tubing. This is, you use this for plumbing, for water. It's lead free, a clear vinyl tubing. And this happens to be 9mm by 5mm by 6.1 meters. So in inches, that's 5/16 inches of the outer diameter, so that's on the outside, and it's 3/16 inch inner diameter by 20 feet. Clear tubing. So what I do with this, or what I had done, and I actually already have a couple pieces cut from this, but I measure out 38 inches of this, and then I just cut it in half. You could measure two pieces of 19 inches, but for me it was just easier to take one long piece and to cut it in half, like so. So I've got two pieces that are 19 inches in length. I'm going to grab a couple paper towels here, because this, I'm going to start working with liquid. So, this is the liquid I've been using. So it's basically just water with food coloring in it. I did make a green one as well for the antivirus. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and sort of put it in like a U shape. Now, you can't put the tubing into the polycarbonate tube and twist it around and then try to fill it. Only because it'd just be a pain in the ass. And water really doesn't like to... You can't really fill a tube like this when it's in a coil. It just doesn't really work. So I'm just going to take a dropper, fill up the dropper, and then fill up my tube. So with my hot glue gun, what I do is I kind of stick the end of the hot glue gun down in, and I sort of just kind of squeeze a little bit of hot glue into the tip. So I'll show you on this one here. Slowly. You don't want to force it in there. You don't want to try to get all the air out of the end of the tube. So you see what I did there. I'm just going to go ahead and let that dry. Hang that off the edge there. You want to be careful with the hot glue gun. It is hot. It is basically molten plastic, so be careful. I've burned myself many times. You can severely burn yourself. Fairly bad. With the hot glue. So while that's drying, I'll just set that to the side. Fill up the other one. Here we go. So this is sufficiently sort of hardened and dried. Hot glue really sets. It sets very fast. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just kind of build up the hot glue a little bit. Because in some of my previous vials that I've been making, as I'm putting this water-filled tube and working it into the polycarbonate tube, I had experienced some blowouts and some leaks, which is not fun, because then you have to kind of take everything out, clean it all up, reseal all the ends. So you just want to make sure. What I'm doing here is I'm working the glue down the side, and I'm using the tip of the glue gun because the tip is hot, so it's sort of like remelting the glue. And I'm pulling the hot molten glue down around the edges. So So it sort of creates a cap, like so. I'll just go ahead and let that dry as I reload my hot glue gun here. You do want to make sure it's really well glued so you don't have any leaks. Another advantage to doing this and to bringing the glue down sort of like a cap is that when it gets into the polycarbonate tube, the ends, and you'll see when I actually end up doing this, the glue is kind of rubbery, so it keeps the ends from slipping, which is pretty awesome. That was just kind of a happy accident. A little happy coincidence. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and build up the glue. You don't want it to be too bulky. And you don't want to come down too terribly far either, because you're going to be coiling this into this polycarbonate tube. And the end, you don't want it to be too, you don't want the glue to come down too far, otherwise the end won't flex. So you just want to cap it just a little bit. So we'll set that off there to dry, and then now we've got the other one that we did, and we'll just do the same thing. Okay, so now the glue has kind of sufficiently dried. I've created enough, I feel, enough of a watertight seal around the edges. So like I was saying earlier, you don't want too much glue on the ends, because then it just won't really be flexible. The ends won't really work into the polycarbonate tubing very well. So next we're ready to insert the tubing with the liquid into the polycarbonate tube. What I've noticed is, like I'd mentioned, that the glue is sort of like rubbery almost. It's got a very rubbery texture to it. And the polycarbonate tubing, not like paint or something on here. So the polycarbonate tubing, though, even though it's really clear, if you were to insert, because what I'm going to do is you have to insert the tubes into the polycarbonate tubing. If the glue sort of scrapes along the edge on the inside of the tube, it's going to leave a really kind of ugly rubbery mark, almost as if you were to like take an eraser and just kind of scrape down the side, sort of like leave a weird ugly mark. So what I like to do is I like to take just a piece of anything, paper. I happen to have paper towel here that I was using to clean up any spills, and then I just sort of thread the tubing through the polycarbonate tube. That way I don't get any mars or marks on there. So I'm just going to reposition my camera here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So I've got the vinyl tubing into my polycarbonate tube. I'm just going to shake out any air bubbles that have formed. So I kind of want about equal amount of the tubing sticking out of the ends. So with them sort of even, I'm going to start twisting. And, you know, just be patient. And twisting, and we're twisting, and now you see that the double helix is forming. And I'm going to keep twisting it and twisting it and twisting it. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect at this point. Now I'm going to tuck the ends in and kind of push them down. Now this is like where I mentioned how the glue was sort of rubbery, and you kind of see now it's just sort of stuck in there. It's the outward pressure, the outward force, and also the fact that the hot glue is sort of a rubbery plastic material. And I'm just going to go ahead and work this in there. and sort of push it down. Now at this point you can make adjustments, because you see it's not quite how it's supposed to look. So you can start making adjustments. And then I'm just going to stick my fingers in here and sort of pull up the helix a little bit. Now the whole like top inch where the cap is going to cover a lot of this sort of ugliness that's going on up here. So don't worry too much about how the ends look, because you're going to be capping this off and you're not going to see the ends. So I'm just pulling down, pulling and pushing. And the polycarbonate tube is really, really strong. This stuff is pretty durable, so you don't have to really baby it. You don't have to be too terribly careful with the polycarbonate tubing, which is why I like it so much. Polycarbonate is extremely strong, and I don't know if you can see that. There is a little air bubble, so I'm just going to go ahead and slowly work the air bubble up. Now, so like what I was saying, the ends look a little, I mean, they look rough, and they look quite rough. So with the caps that I'm using, and you'll notice once I get the cap on, you're not going to see any of that end. So you just kind of see how that's like that. You really aren't going to see any of that, so you don't have to worry about that. And this is let's measure this. This cap is going to cover a whole 1.5 inches of the top. So this can be as ugly as you want. And you're going to actually see what's going to happen, because I'm going to actually secure my tubing with some hot glue. Now I would actually kind of recommend maybe using a low temp glue for this. I've experienced, see, the hot glue creates pressure in the tube, because what it's doing is it's heating up the water, and I'm getting a blowout. It's temporary and it's not permanent. You just kind of have to go in and clean up the liquid and the water. The hot glue creates pressure in the clear vinyl tubing, and it causes the water to heat up, and it forces it out the end. So otherwise, once you're done gluing the end, it's fine. It'll kind of seal it all up again. It won't continue to leak. So if you have like a low temp glue gun, that would actually be ideal. Because hot glue is basically molten plastic. You can kind of see how the water's seeping out a little bit. I've found with all the other ones that I've made, the same thing happened. And these were made days and days and days ago, and they're not leaking anymore. So the leaking is going to stop if you encounter this. I freaked out at first. It was really quite irritating. Alright, so that glue should be sufficiently 90% set. You can go ahead and still make adjustments on the inside with the helix and all that good stuff. So I'm pretty happy with that. So what with these, what I've done was I went ahead and sanded them down. You'll notice that there is some raised writing on it. And that's just the manufacturer and information, gives the size of the product, and it's raised. because these are like, it's PVC and they're like just molded, I guess, probably in a mold, mass molded. So what I've done was I've just taken my Dremel, and I've got hot glue all over my fingers. So I've just taken my Dremel and some sandpaper, and I ground down all that writing. And then I took finer sandpaper, just try to really make the top as flat as possible, because you see it is kind of a little curved. And then in the pictures of these that are movie prop accurate, screen accurate props, it's a very sleek, very angular round cap. So just to try to make it as close to that as possible, because the caps that you see on that are screen accurate, those caps are actually they're handmade, and they're turned on a metal lathe. I don't have a metal lathe, and I don't know how to work with metal, so I went ahead and decided to use PVC. So try to make that as flat as possible without busting through the top and taking too much material off. Sanded the whole thing, primed it, and painted it silver, like so. These are still just a tiny bit tacky. Still waiting for these to dry, and then I just have to finish the edge. And then these just fit right on the ends, and they cover all the ugliness, like so. And that is how you make a T-Virus vial. Not 100% screen accurate. If you're into that, then I recommend, if you know how to work with metal, then I recommend turning out a couple of metal caps. Also, online, the screen accurate vials, the tubing that they are using is acrylic. Acrylic is great. I want to use acrylic, but acrylic is extremely expensive. So they come in standard lengths. Cutting acrylic is fairly easy as well, but you do have to have some tools to do it. But acrylic is extremely expensive. For a piece that was basically the same diameter, but in a standard length, would have cost me over, I think it was over $150. And that probably would have I would have been able to make 2 of these. So even though acrylic is pretty, and it's durable, and it's a lot thicker, it is extremely expensive. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, if I have failed to mention anything, please feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Leave me comments. If they're nice, don't leave me any mean comments. Just joking, I don't care. But yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching, everybody. And like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. I will be more than happy to answer them. So take care, and we'll see you later.